Hey guys, Faz Radio today with Mal and Sai. We're going to talk about risk management today with crypto. So let's get started. I don't know who came up with this. I think Lee from the Discord came up with risk management, and I remember talking to him. This was right after some guy on the Discord was saying how he was throwing like anything and everything into nodes. He was trying to take a bank loan or something. He was doing something that seemed a little bit risky to get a node, and myself and Lee and I think maybe a couple other people were kind of trying to talk him out of it. I think he wound up getting one, but he wound up paying like $10,000 for one, I think.
It wouldn't be the first time I've seen someone trying to get debt for crypto or a node.
I don't know. He seemed rather proud of it, actually, that he was taking such a big risk for it. But, some people feel, the bigger risks they take, that they need to tell everybody what they're doing. That's the last thing that I want to do if I'm taking a huge risk in stuff. Well, I might tell one or two people like that are close that'll feel sorry for me, being like, "Oh man, that sucks." But I don't know if I could do that to a whole Discord with thousands of people in it.
Yeah, I would never recommend anyone ever take any debt for something that's just not certain, unless you know you can cover the debt. And even then, I wouldn't recommend it.
Is there anything certain about crypto? I mean, it's all risk, isn't it?
Well, that's what I mean. This is why I wouldn't ever take any debt for crypto. It is just too risky, even if you're confident. But people leverage trade, and I don't know. I don't recommend it. For me, that's like one of. When I'm buying crypto, you're spending money or whatever you do in the crypto space. You should only spend what you can afford to lose, because you always have that risk. That risk never goes away.
The only debt that I've taken for crypto is if I knew money was going to come in next week or something, if I had a check coming my way, it's like, oh, got $500 coming my way. Okay, I'll put that on the card because I want it now, and then I'll pay it off. But that's as risky as I get, is if I know money is coming and then, didn't come, then I guess I'd never do that again.
But I'm sure you could cover what you put in, though. That's the part of the risk management is, if this all went wrong, will I be okay at the end? If the answer is no, then don't do it.
Right. If you're able to lose that amount of money and come back the next week and be okay, then it might be okay.
Well, a lot of people who get into crypto are doing it, in my opinion, because they see a big return, and a lot of people they want to be able to change their lives. It's kind of funny, it's kind of, in a way, it's a lottery. It's more certain than a lottery, in my opinion. But you do have a lot of people that are changing their lives on a daily basis with crypto. I think they don't exactly understand why it's going up so much. I think a lot of us, what I try to do is I try to do a lot of research on how cryptos work and, where things are going. And for me, it's an investment. I'm a long-term hodler kind of person, and I know other people aren't. But, a lot of people are just getting into crypto because they want to get money. I'm not sure if I can suggest this to everybody, because crypto is really risky.
Yeah, I would. So one question I have, because I'm not like a professional investor by any means. I'm not that experienced. I just started researching investments and things like at the beginning of this year, really. What variables do you consider for establishing like a risk level? So how would you determine what a high risk investment is? What sort of variables do you consider?
It's a good question.
It's a broad question.
I mean, for me personally, I look at what, like, for crypto, I'll try, and if I'm gonna go into a coin, I want to know if it's got utility. For me is the big one, utility, and then I judge how useful the utility is, and then how many people that utility would affect. So that's kind of the tree I use when I'm looking into a coin. Projects, again, they can seem super amazing and never going to fail, and then one day it's gone. So with projects, again, I look at the dev team. Who are they? What have they done? The community is normally a good thing to look at as well. And it's just research. Do your own research to the highest level of what you're comfortable doing with your money. If it's a lot of money, do a lot of research. If it's just a small amount of money, have a little check. Go through the factors I've just labelled, and then I judge it based on the money that's going in. Is mainly my point. If it's a lot of money, I'm going to do a far more research. If I'm going to go into a project, then I want to know all about the team, and I'll go to the deep dive channel in the Faz Discord, and I'll just post, hey, tell me what you think of this. And I like to see every opinion possible, negative and positive.
You know, community, actually, I want to expound on that. Community is a big one for me. I have to see that a lot of people are strongly engaged with something or project or whatever. It matters. And I think a lot of people that I see on Twitter talking about projects, I think they're just picking stuff. I don't think they engage with the community. And okay, that's fine. You don't have the time to engage with the community, but you better have some sort of feedback as to how the community is doing, you know, because it's the community that gives me cues on when to invest and invest more. The community is for a project is usually told first when something new is going to happen. It's like, well, next week we're thinking of starting this up. Oh, really? Well, they you know, and if you follow it, it's like, okay, I know that they pretty much fulfill their promises. And oh my God, what does this mean? I'm going to put some stuff in. By the time it gets published on some sort of crypto blog or something, you know, the stuff has been in process for a long time. And I mean, the stuff has been out, and then everybody starts jumping on board. So from an investment point of view, that's where my return is when everybody else discovers what I found out on my own.
And regarding communities, you have to still have some carefulness, because some communities aren't the smartest. I don't mean to be rude if that offends anyone, but some communities are they just get lured in with ROI, and people forget that Ponzi's usually do work. Of some, you know, people are talking about it because they're getting profits and it's all great and it's all well, and then one day it isn't. So when I'm looking at a community, I try and look at their intelligence level as well. Like if I don't see any decent questions coming from them or any challenge, or that's a put off to me, because they're just an easily convinced community. Like we have in the Faz Discord, people pipe up for the projects that they love, and then someone will come in and give them loads of reasons why that isn't necessarily a great thing, and they're just, no, disagree, not listening to you. Mm. So, I wouldn't always take community word as God on a subject, but as Faz says, if they're excited and you see promises delivered and it seems positive, it's usually a good sign. But do not be fooled, because Ponzi's are very easily masked by a community that doesn't know what they're talking about.
If somebody posts about a project on the Discord, they need to be able, if they want to tell you how this project is, what this is, to me, for this to be a valid project, they either need to be able to defend it well or point to someone who can. That's important. And a lot of times people just post something that they think is cool, something that usually it's something that they've thrown a few $100 in, and they want to feel good about it. They want to get other people involved. And it's like, great, tell me why this is good. And I've seen a lot of people, they'll just beg off and they'll just be like, well, I just thought it was cool. I'm just letting you know. Well, I'm interested. Tell me about it. Why should I invest in something like this? And then I think it makes them nervous. And then they're like, oh, well, gee, why did I invest in this? Well, it was just kind of good, Yeah,
I think it comes down to the intelligence. And by that, I mean purely how much they actually know about crypto. Because you can be in crypto for many months and you're at the point where you just know how to move crypto around wallets, maybe make a hard wallet. Congratulations, you don't know very much. But the user itself feels like they know a lot because they've read a few things and whatnot. But then they don't know what questions to ask that actually mean something, you know, like a hard, challenging question. And I think that's where the problem is. A lot of people just get wooed in because they think the person telling them speaking smart, but in reality, they're just speaking a language they don't understand. And if they did understand it, sorry, then they would know it's just an absolute load of codswallop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of flowery language that comes with people trying to sell investments, I've noticed.
And it's easy to fall for when you're new, because you've got all this, you know, a couple hundred people, maybe 1,000 people telling you, yeah, I've made my money back. Well, that can be the case sometimes, but it's not the be all and end all. If it's better to understand what you're being told and actually be able to like digest the information in a logical way and then apply a counter argument or a what if, or judge yourself then whether you feel it's risky. There's so many projects I hear about, and I can clearly see people are making their money back. But I've applied my risk assessment and thought, absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Maybe I understand more than the people who are arguing, maybe I don't. But it all comes down to what you are prepared to risk and understanding how intelligent you are on the subject. And there's no shame in being like, well, I haven't got a clue what these are talking about. I don't know whether this is good or not. Go and ask someone who does. Just make sure they are someone who does. Take what information they've given, research that yourself. That's all I could really suggest on that.
Right. I think that brings up another good point of how risk assessment and risk management should really be done on an individual basis. So everyone has different risk levels. Everyone has, you know, everyone's circumstances are unique, and their intelligence levels, or, you know, whatever else, everyone is different. So even though one project might work for somebody, it might not work for another person. So all risk assessment should really be done individually, and that's kind of what makes it really tricky. Is, you know, most people that are just getting into it don't really know how to properly assess that type of risk, which I think is part of the reason so many people lose so much money while other people are making so much money.
Because now that you've brought it up, how do people assess that risk? Right now, I know that there's a designation, or at least in the United States, of an accredited investor. If you're an accredited investor, I believe you have to have over $1 million in assets, and that could be including stocks and stuff. So that could be unrealized assets, I believe. It's been determined that somebody with that much money and is investing at the same time knows enough about what they're doing in order to properly invest. I agree with the idea of a criteria. Unfortunately, it really excludes a lot of people. So there's not a lot of freedom in that. But you know, you have the capacity, if you're doing something wrong, to really lose a lot of money and screw your entire family, if you're married and have kids. What kind of criteria would you think?
Well, for me, because I'm still a noob when it comes to crypto, I kind of would equate everything to just gambling. Like, I'm at the casino, I'm not, it's more long term. Obviously, I'm not doing things, making decisions and losing a bunch of money and then leaving with lots less money than I came with, like a casino. But I see it as that level of risk, kind of just taking a chance on something that I don't fully understand. I don't know how to count cards, for instance. I don't know how to play the system maybe as well as professionals. But it is a way that you can make money even if you don't know what you're doing. And that's kind of how I treat it. So I'm not putting in so much money that, I know that there's a huge amount of risk.
Is investing in stocks gambling?
Well,
yeah, I would say so.
It depends how you're doing it. if you're a day trader, then yeah, for sure. It's
Then,
like
then wait a minute. So like half the world now has their 401k retirements tied up in index stocks and other financial products like that. I think, when I first was introduced to the stock market when I was 17, I could see right away it was just like a casino. Even the long-term stuff is just like a casino because remember, um, stocks do well over time because people believe that the companies are strong. But are they strong? I don't know. It depends on the day. So if you keep your retirement in a bunch of stocks, you kind of are still gambling. You're gambling your entire retirement on whether the specific companies that are in that index stock are safe from or solvent.
Well, I've Googled definition of gambling, and it says an activity characterized by a balance between winning and losing that is governed by a mixture of skill and chance. That to me is stocks, crypto, even buying a gold bar. You are gambling the chance with a little bit of skill, aka research, and by chance that it goes up, regardless.
Well, you're gambling if you drive in a car and don't get in a car accident. Car accidents are they happen all the time. So I mean, at what level is gambling not a good idea and gambling, or is gambling just necessary?
It's just a broad definition, if anything, and I would class like crypto and stocks and things as a real form of proper gambling. Gambling your life every time you leave the house, you could definitely use that. You could definitely say every time you step out of the house, there's a gamble, whether you get hit by a car, bus, pigeon comes down, stabs you in the neck. Who knows what's going to happen? But I wouldn't. That's the sort of gambling that comes with life. Whereas you make the choice actively when you look at stocks and crypto. You know it's going up or down. That's just how it goes to me. So I would say that's more a form of gambling than just getting in your car and driving to work. But you could add the gambling definition to quite a lot. So it's just a broad term.
I would maybe kind of further define the term to be in terms of money, like loss and gain of money. So, I mean, you could potentially stretch the definition to be outside of that context, but the way that it's
I was trying to make the point.
Understood.
I was trying to make the point that the definition, it's hard to find an endpoint for the definition. So if we stay with financial products, are you gambling then if you don't invest in stocks, but you keep money in a bank? Well, really,
yeah.
What the bank is investing your money. They're investing it by loaning it out to other people and getting money back, and they're probably investing it in the stock market as well. They're doing a currency, foreign exchange, gambling, as it were. So you're not gambling; they are. And how are they better than you at gambling?
Well, odds of winning changes quite a bit based on skill and knowledge, understanding of the topic, right? So in a casino, for instance, there are professional gamblers. There are professional poker players who win much more than they lose. I mean, there are outliers, of course, that probably have lost all their money. But for the most part, if you have a good amount of skill into something, if you understand the odds well enough, there are ways of making money off of it.
Exactly. And so that's why I started with this whole accredited investor thing. If you're an accredited investor, it's assumed that you know what you're doing. And the reason that you know what you're doing is because if you've been able to amass that much money and hold on to it, then you must have some sort of experience. And that's unfortunately it's an unfortunately broad circumstance because it doesn't include, nefarious ways of doing things and so on. But, a lot of people right now are having problems with, a lot of people in financial positions are having problems with so many people getting into crypto. And they're saying, rightfully so, these people don't realize that they could lose their shirt. And my thought is there's got to be some sort of way for there to be some sort of dividing line or way to tell if
Sounds
you're,
like you're hinting at regulation there.
I'm not sure. I was actually thinking more of the education direction, and that's why I created the Discord.
Mhm.
You know, when you go to school, they teach you history and some basic math and so on, but they don't tell you how to use the knowledge that you're given. And the same thing goes with investing. I'm not sure that there are high school courses in investing. Maybe there's college courses in it. At least those would tell you ways to use your knowledge. And you have a lot of people getting into crypto right now, not knowing any ways to do that kind of stuff.
So that you brought up two different aspects of risk management, regulation and education. I would argue that education is much more difficult to implement on a large scale because you have to have people that are interested in being educated, and that can definitely be difficult, as you know. And some people just either don't want to be educated, or they don't have the ability to be, or they're not in the mindset to be. So
And not always, the education doesn't always reach the people it needs to reach.
right. So your education, people, when they hear that something is educational, a lot of times they just stop listening. That's probably the majority of people. I would say the majority of people are not, they're not curious enough to want to learn more.
But they hear the word profit and dive straight in and
Right.
refuse to learn. I've told so many people, oh, you need to go and read this, and they don't want to. They just literally be like, why? Right, we're going to lose your money then. If that's the attitude you have, you can't be salty that you lost your money. Now, that's obviously a based on like person by person aspect. But education, as you say, I completely agree, Si, is one of the hardest things. But then regulation, is it fair? Well, we don't think you meet the criteria to buy some crypto. Why? Some of my greatest lessons came from taking a risk that I was stupid enough to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not for regulation on it unless it's like, you've got to at least be 18 years old. I would put it so you couldn't put debt in. If you're taking debt out, I wouldn't allow that. I think that's causing problems. But if they've got their own money to spend, I think the criteria should be, 18 or 21, depending on whatever country and rules you've got. But
Mm-hmm.
the education is the most important part, though. But how do you educate so many people, especially because they don't want to listen? You've got to understand, most of the people who are losing the money are the arrogant ones that don't want to read a book, that don't want to go and learn. They just want some guy to tell them what the answer is, whether he's right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
How can you help those people? Should we feel sorry for them for losing the money? Is it our fault, or is it theirs really at the end of the day?
Well, whether or not we feel sorry for them, it still hurts the image of whatever asset you're talking about, right? So it's overall, even if these people, you say you're shaking out the weak hands in the case of crypto, when there's, a lot of people losing money because they're selling low after buying high, it's not necessarily a good thing that they're not ever going to get into crypto again. You know what I mean? Because in order to become a less risky investment, you need confidence, right? And confidence is kind of determined by how many people. Well, it's determined in large part by word of mouth. And when so many people are losing money, they're going to be telling their friends about their experience, and that's when you get an overwhelming amount of fear, uncertainty, doubt, and you get into bad market stuff.
I agree totally there. It's not nice. I don't ever, I do. It's not that I don't feel sorry for them, but again, a lot of it is their own arrogance. And this is how the market generally works. This is where your money comes from a lot of the time, is from these people who have the shaky hands. You go to the stock markets, how many people I could ask 100 people today, and probably 90 of them wouldn't touch stocks because they're just the thought of losing the money, or they're just certain they're going to lose the money every time. I think that'll be the same with crypto. And then eventually, once it stables out more like a currency, that's when more people will be confident. But I think at the moment, you're better not having those people in the market. But I don't think forcing them out by regulation or just, when they try and join in. I think sometimes someone needs to take a risk to get any reward anyway.
Well, regulation is going to happen when you have a lot of people doing something. Here in the United States, cities basically have more rules than living in the country. And people who live in the country, there's less houses, there's less people, there's less to regulate. But once you get into a city, you can't carry a firearm into a store. You can't you can't you can't yell fire in a theater. I mean, there's a lot of things that you it's not very wise to do when you have so many people around. Try being in a huge crowd and waving a gun around. That's not going to work out well for you. But in the middle of the country, or in the middle of nowhere, sure, yeah, less people are going to have a problem. So the more people that get into crypto, it's just the fact it's going to get regulated more. And that's just so that people know how to act. Our roads have regulation. Drive on certain side of the road. These are the signs, and it's not to make people listen. It's to make sure that things happen in a predictable way. Oh, the accidents are going to happen here. This is how you get off of the highway, and everybody knows what to expect. And so there's less accidents because you have regulation. And yes, I am speaking in support of some regulation. I just don't know how much regulation is required.
Right. That's why I've been, getting slightly off topic from risk management, but that I've kind of been saying it's inevitable that we're getting regulation in the US, right? And part of that is just to stabilize it really, whether you like it or not, it's going to stabilize the asset class. It might, have a huge correction at first, but overall, people are going to feel less afraid of it if they know what to expect. And right now they don't know what to expect as far as regulation. And that causes a lot of fear.
Yeah.
Probably more than anything else is
and that happened with
regulation.
And that happened with online purchases too. Amazon is where it is right now because we had a lot of regulations in the 90s and 2000s and so on. We didn't have that at first. I know I didn't order very much online until, trying to think, mid 2000s, because I wasn't used to it. 2, I didn't know what to expect. 3, I was like, if I just paid these, I don't even know who these people are. If I just paid them, I'm just sending money into nowhere. Am I actually going to get it? I wasn't used to mail order. And that's kind of funny because mail order was almost the predominant way to buy things a long, long time ago. But, and then a lot of regulations came about to govern that. And now Amazon is here, and Amazon pretty much rules, well, the United States anyway. I don't know if they rule the world yet.
I look at the exchanges, the fiat on-ramps. They're probably one of the most important places you could put the education that's needed. So therefore, regulation around a fiat on-ramp being a little bit tighter in a sense of you have to agree to sort of at least read or like have an understanding maybe, or they just sort of force you before you can use the exchange. Listen, you got to go through this little mini course or something like that. I could see that helping people. Like Coinbase does have the little things you can learn about each coin and stuff like that. But there isn't really much about understanding the risk. No exchange wants to sort of sit there rubbing in your face. Hey, you might lose all your money that you're putting in, by the way. But I think they should be a bit more honest like that, because most people are going to ignore it anyway. But there'll be the odd person that might think, actually, all right, yeah, I might not put 1,000 in. I'll put a few hundred in, and I'll get my toes wet that way. See, I've always liked bullion buy post. They have so much information around buying silver and gold. So before you even purchase, you can see what a credited company is or person. You can learn about all the different ways it can go wrong. They will tell you this could be wrong. This is how you can be scammed. Pay attention to this.
Yeah, gold. In particular, with gold, the way that you do it, if you don't do it by mail, is you go into the store or you go into where they sell gold or buy gold, and you just sell it to the guy behind the counter. And people seem to like that better for some reason, or feel that it's more immediate, but it's 1,000 times worse. You get all your gold together, you drive it over there, which is a little bit of a risk. But once you get over there, then you're like, well, if I don't sell it to this guy, I'm going to have to leave and then go somewhere else. There's a big inconvenience. And then that guy is going to be like a used car salesman to you. He's going to be like, oh, well, you're not going to get much more if you go elsewhere. And you can come in and act all informed. And at a certain point, they're just going to be like, look, take it or leave it, dude. And so I'm sorry, I interrupted your bullion by post argument, but you're dead on with that. And I just wanted to give the alternative.
Yeah, and I feel like applying that to more crypto on-ramps, fiat on-ramps, is probably a better way to deal with risk management for people, is just be honest with them. Like, there's a good chance they're still going to put something in anyway, but from a business point, I can see them having arguments of why they wouldn't do that. But I personally think regulation should force exchanges to be more, at least just, I mean, I wouldn't say credit checks. I'm sure, like, because that'd be a bit like getting a loan then, but just some form of, listen, read and accept this, understand what you are doing is a very, very risky thing. You know what I mean? It's not what someone told you. It's not anything other than it is a risk, regardless what you think you know. End of. And then I would apply so many education, again, like Bullion by Post has, or the links where you can go off and read, or the credible information. I don't see why exchanges couldn't push to be more accommodating for new crypto users. In fact, I think they'd probably have more people invest because they felt more confident.
Bullion by Post, that's a website, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was made clear, because
it's where you get, your gold coins and your gold bars, and it's a very, very reputable place to go, and like I learned a lot about electronic gold buying and how it works, the way we look at gold purity, silver purity. I just read it for the education side. I find that interesting. I didn't have the money to even buy anything, but I will look for the information, and I was happy it was in the actual place where you buy. It wasn't the sort of usual car salesman pitch. It was actual, like, listen, read this. This is important. You need to know this. There was no wool being pulled over your eyes. I felt like.
Mm-hmm. It is worth mentioning that you can also buy gold as crypto. And I know CeeLo, I think, is one of them, but there's another one that I bought, actually, which was XAU. What's that called? Not XAU. That's gold.
Well, Uphold does it as well, I think.
Uphold XAU, UPXAU. And that's guaranteed by the Perth Mint. That's in Australia. And, I like the idea, frankly, of buying gold with a crypto version of gold better, that's backed by gold, because you have a mint that's guaranteeing it. You have no cost to move it. You have no worry about its safety. And you have the mint itself is behind it. So, I guess you could say if the mint goes away, then that would be something you could worry about. And when you buy gold, you might not be getting gold that's good. You might be getting a fake. And it's hard to audit gold. The only way you can truly audit gold is to drill into it. You've got to destroy it to figure out whether it's actual gold. I mean, you could test the surface. I mean, if it's coated with gold, you might be able to rub off a part. But truly, you don't actually know what you have when you buy gold. You probably do. Is that good enough?
Well, that's it. You don't know if someone's gold coated, as you say, metal or something, something like that. It's risky, and it's for people who know what they're doing. And I suppose you could say that about crypto, really. You could easily buy gold and it goes up, well done. You can buy gold and it goes down. The same with crypto, really. It's understanding what you're investing in. Like, I won't go and start investing in rare stamps because there's absolutely no way I'm going to sit and learn all about stamps and what makes one rare and more collectible over the other one. But if I was going to, I would sit there and I'd learn everything there was to know about collectible stamps or whatever else it was. Some people won't. They're just like, what? You can, they go for auction at this much, and just dive straight in. So I think that is the problem, there just isn't that information where it needs to be in the choke points of fiat to crypto. With gold, there's so many choke points where it's like, yeah, read this. If you're buying electronic gold, understand this.
With stamps and stuff like that, you actually really have to get it certified or verified by someone else, because I mean, and I invested in Magic the Gathering cards, and if I were to buy a very rare Magic the Gathering card, I'm more likely to buy it if it's been verified by there are companies that actually verify the authenticity of Magic cards. They verify the quality. And so some of these cards, they have them in, these small plastic containers with a stamp on it saying that, okay, we have verified that this is a very good one. They do that with stamps as well. That's extra cost on top of the item itself, which is really annoying. Again, you don't get that with crypto. Crypto, you just know it's, well, maybe I should hold off and say that probably there probably are a lot of fakes in crypto.
Yeah, some crypto, not the shit coins.
Which is a topic of risk management. Because, there's something like, what, 8,400 coins, I think, now? Although there's well over 8,000, I know that. And I can promise you there's probably going to be about 10 that remain in a few years that are actually, like, credible. So how do you weed through? Because so many projects are great, but what you don't realize is there's 5 other projects doing the same thing that have just been quieter because they're doing it organically. And then they're just going to blow every other similar project out the water. But the one you heard about is because everyone was yattering on about it because no one had the hard questions to ask. No one understood why. No one done the research. This is a very, very easy thing to happen. And when you're coming into shitcoins, I mean, come on, Faz, me and you have definitely done our fair share of them. But we do it with fun. We laugh when we're doing it. We always know there's a 99% chance it all goes wrong.
A shitcoin is really just it's a gamble. It's literally you're playing dice at that point with, are you going to get a number of people that are going to jump in and like this? There are some shitcoins actually that attempt to do some sort of good. Some try to be charity focused. I think Shiba, don't they have some development going on with that one? And Doge is starting back up with its they're developing the coin again, and what Flare is building on Doge. So a shitcoin can turn into a real coin pretty quickly just by how the market works. So I wouldn't discount shitcoins as crap. They I would have to say are their own area of coins now. I mean, you have gaming coins, you have finance coins, DeFi coins, stuff like that. I'm going to have to say meme coins is another area now. And it's part of it is, a lot of it is, wisdom, just the crowd. I'm not going to say wisdom of the crowd, but the crowds determining what they like. But there's even isn't there a shit finance coin now? Isn't Cake a shit coin, or is that an actual finance coin now?
I mean, it's got a utility. But see, the thing with these swap coins, I don't get them myself. Like, why do they need a coin when they're just a swap and service? I've never understood it. And this is where I apply my risk to those shit coins, basically. Because as I say, you can look at a utility. Oh, it does have a utility. Next checkbox, is the utility useful? Next checkbox, how many people is that useful for? Well, it's a swap and service. Guess what? There's loads of them, and they're popping up by the day. Because people are now learning, hey, this is really easy to just fork this code over. Come and use my swap service. We offer this new, fancy, useless utility, but the majority of people are like, oh, I don't know if that's a good utility or not. Sounds like it. The coin's going up in price. Now, as you said, Faz, there are some that have some really good use cases, and they're still in the category of a shitcoin. So it's using your best judgment. When I buy them, I just buy them in the hope that it's just going to bull up. I'm honest about it. I buy them. I tell everyone, lol, I've just done this. Let's hope I get rich. And most of the time it doesn't work. But I accept that well in advance. But I look at my experience. I've bought shit coins that have made me a lot of money and then died. So it's how long do you hold? Do you look into the project? I won't look into the projects. I'll have a brief on a shit coin. I usually just ask someone else who I think's credible to listen to. And then I'll judge off what they say, because even though a lot of them have projects, they still not going to do very well, because the project might be great, but they don't need a coin. They all dive in with their own coin. Same with Cake, they just don't need a coin. Uniswap, I just felt like they definitely didn't need a coin. There's just no point when they make money from the fees and then they bang a coin out. So that's where I get a bit dubious with shit coins. I think they're just more on the bandwagon than actually useful. But their utility gets blended with their service, which is where.
Well, you know me. I like to see all the angles, and I can certainly see why they create their coin. You create a coin when you want to be able to grow your own use case and optimize your ecosystem, or create an ecosystem. You want to grow your use case in a way that you can control. Yes, everybody can build on Ethereum. Everybody can build on one coin, but things start getting a bit dicey because Ethereum wasn't designed in a way to do everything for everybody. Yes, it kind of was. I mean, it's designed to be a programmable coin and have smart contracts, but you're going to find as you start working with it that certain things work better than other things. And the same thing goes with programming languages, because I'm a programmer, and you're finding, you can write your program in any language, but you find that some languages are just better. And then after a while, you start finding that really no language does exactly what we want. It's not optimized for what we want. And I'm going to bring up Gala Games in particular here. They're interoperate. They started out as a ERC20 token, and that worked fine until gas went up. And then after a while, they're like, okay, we've got to get off of this because gas is just too damn high. And then after a while, they're talking about their use cases, with the Discord. And one of their use cases are, we need to be able to run the game off of these nodes and be able to have information go back and forth really fast. NFTs need to be able to be created, deleted really fast. We need to transfer value really fast. And I couldn't find a coin that can do that. They start asking everybody, tell me a coin that does this. I suggested Holochain, but they didn't agree with that. And so after a while, or maybe they did investigate that, and the coins they investigated just weren't enough. They weren't fast enough. And they're like, you know what? We can design exactly the ecosystem and the optimizations that we need. Yes, it's a lot like this other coin, but it's different in just this one way. And, that's why you create new coins. In my opinion, coins are like websites. There's a million websites out there. There's really no website to rule them all. And no, Google is not a website to rule them all, because you can't just have Google and then nothing else. And not only that, Google is a set of websites. They have a number of products, and they certainly don't cover everything. But there's no website that rules them all. There's not going to be you're not going to have 10 coins. You're going to have 10 million coins. You're going to get into the very thing that you need. There's going to be coins that try to bridge ecosystems together. So the coins are going to form, they're going to split apart, but it's always going to be, up and down, back and forth. It's always going to be moving along, in my opinion. And that's what makes the space very big. And
it is what makes it big. I'll give you that. But again, I do not feel like, a lot of them need coins. I feel like they are. I understand your point of view. Like Gala Games definitely needs a coin. It's eventually there's going to be multiple in-game currencies that you swap into Gala. So if you want to take your in-game currencies and make them into an actual cryptocurrency that you can sell, that's where Gala's utility will come in, and it'll be huge. So they have to have their own token for that. Does Uniswap need its own token? Really? It's a service you go on, and that's that. So for me, it's, do you need a coin, or do you just think you need a coin? And then
it depends on their plans.
That's a question for devs. That's not really relevant to risk management in that sense, because that's a dev's decision. And usually, this is why I'm very skeptical of a lot of them because they just don't need the coin. Like, it's usually a way to incentivize, and then it just leads the path then for the multiple shitcoins that are definitely never going to go away. But yeah, I suppose we can agree to disagree there. I feel like some services just don't need to bring a coin out. They just really don't. They just do for the sake of it.
And sometimes people just buy into it because they want to collect coins. And sometimes projects survive solely on that mindset. So it's kind of, I mean, tying it back into risk, that's high risk. You know, the less utility you have, the more like collectors targeting you do. That's going to increase your risk for sure.
Well, look at Dodge coming alive after years. How many people predicted that? So holding shitcoins for a few years could definitely turn out in your favor because it just gets re-sparked, or who knows. So it's, as you say, it comes back to the risk there of you're going to wait that long? Can it come back alive? Will it come back alive? Again, it comes down to the person. Like, can you risk it? Can you be bothered? Is it something that interests you?
There's another angle with that collecting business, which is I was just thinking of collecting bottle caps when I was a kid, and people who collect Star Wars action figures. I can fully assume, I could fully predict that, 20, 30 years, people are going to be having these coins and kind of showing them around, be like, okay, well, this coin answered this problem, and this was really, really good for its day, and I'm glad I have a few of these hanging around.
Yeah, I actually agree. I could see in about 20, 30 years, they're being like, look at my NFT that's from this, it's an 1155, and everyone's like, oh, do you know what I mean? Because it's just so unheard of. And I definitely can see people holding coins from projects that people just hold in their heart that never maybe did well. But people are just like, yeah, I'll buy that billion coins off you for my little coin collection. I could definitely see that.
They're collectors. Like in RuneScape, you know how people buy burnt food. It's like done it yourself. A status thing.
Yeah, that's one of the best examples. Actually, I've been like that. Just hundreds of thousands of like compost or just some stupid item that you just absolutely hoard the box off.
That's crazy. I was a gamer in the past, but with a lot of this newer stuff, I just have not had the time. That's hilarious that people would collect useless items in games. The problem I have with games like that nowadays, after being into crypto for so long, is I just can't keep anything from the game. I mean, it's you have it as long as RuneScape stays around.
Yeah, that's what will make the blockchain collection more beautiful, I think. Especially once all the bridges are there and it's all normal. And in 5 years, I can imagine most people who first step into crypto won't even know these conversations were ever needed. Like people like, what's a bridge? What do you mean we didn't always be able to do this? So, I mean, if you look at the early internet, we've had this conversation before. Like everyone now just can send an email or receive an email. But there was a point in time where that was a bit like,
Well, they're competing standards. There were competing standards with sending emails and with file formats and so on. We talked about that on one of our previous, I think our previous one. So it's, all the standards are still being figured out, and all the rich people, they're thinking, oh, we're all going to standardize on one coin. I think Flare actually has a really good angle, which is, who cares? Whatever coin you have, we'll just make it work. And the Flare will be the standard. Okay, do you have Flare? That's what you're going to ask. If you don't have Flare, well, I'm not going to work with your coin.
I think it's a different subject, really, though, isn't it? Standards to risk management.
Oh, no. Standards are really big for risk management.
Of course, obviously picking the right standards.
Standards are regulation.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, for me, when I talk about risk management, I mean the point of buying and what you're going to expect.
The question is, who is going to come up with the standards? If the government does it, we call it regulation. If the government, anybody can create a standard. I don't know if there's a word for if private industry comes up with a standard. I guess it just becomes a standard. There's an official standard called an ISO standard, There's a number of ISO standards out there to where, if you're programming code or if you're making a product, you need to meet an ISO standard. That's an international standards. It stands for International Standards Organization, I think. And so if your business meets the ISO standard, then a whole bunch of options open up to you that you could just interoperate with this guy, that guy, that guy, and it costs a lot less money because your stuff will just work.
I think what will happen is the devs will decide the best standards as it's made, and the government will pick which ones they prefer.
Well, the devs don't decide. It's the people that, the people that are putting together the project, or in the case of companies.
Well, the devs. We're talking about crypto standards. It's going to be the devs who make the projects.
I'm thinking about the people that spearhead these projects. I don't know if I would consider the CEO of Gala Games as a dev. I would call him more of an entrepreneur. So I would say the entrepreneurs would decide. The devs really get told to do crazy things by their bosses, and their bosses are like, "No, really, it'll work." And the devs are like, "Okay." So I don't want to. I
disagree there, because I know Benefactor gets told by the devs what's possible, what isn't. The devs are going to decide what can and can't be done, whether the boss wants it or not.
Oh, I've tried. I've worked in a number of places, and I have tried to tell the boss this is a bad idea.
Yeah, but we're talking about like civilian type workloads. That's usually just because your boss is an idiot and doesn't know how. Most bosses aren't the people who are best for the job. That's always the case. Same for politicians, same for workloads. Yeah. It's usually just someone who got it because he was mates, been there longer, still doesn't have a clue. Whereas in crypto, it's the devs that are going to have to build it. If they say build this and a dev can't, they can't do it. And so the devs will pick the best standards for what they're doing, and the bosses will have to accept that, I think, in terms of crypto.
Well, I think Gala is a unique case where that is the case where the higher ups, Benefactor and them, they do listen to their devs. And I think that's part of the reason I feel like I trust them, because it's not just Benefactor making all the decisions. But I don't know how common that is.
He might ask for things like, well, I want this, I feel a company needs this, and the devs might have to stress to build it or something like that. I don't know how it goes. But in most cases, especially with projects, it's the dev. The boss can ask what he wants, he can demand it, but if it doesn't match or it's not possible tech-wise, it's just not happening. Whereas in a factory or something, or some program that's for some software for some company or stuff like that, they can probably eventually pressure you into doing something that you don't want to do, and it comes out worse usually. That if you do that in crypto, you don't have a project.
I'd really like to strongly suggest that you read the history of Atari, of Commodore, and of other companies from the 70s and 80s. Apple in particular, Steve Jobs. It doesn't matter if it's impossible. The CEOs have the money. They employ the devs. If the devs don't do what the CEO wants, they get fired. And that's exactly how the iPhone was created.
Again, it's just different in this case, though. With crypto,
so many people have told Steve Jobs this was not going to happen. This wasn't practical. This was stupid. I mean, who would make a glass phone? Come on. We now have glass phones.
We know he faked it until he made it. The first phone he went in wasn't working. So.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They eventually got there, and the CEOs will make it happen. So it's, in my opinion, Gala Games is moving forward because Benefactor has a vision, and he might not be the same kind of boss that Steve Jobs is, but I know for a fact that they started some things without knowing where the end is.
Of course, that's not what I'm saying, but the standard-wise of what the tech's going to be used, it's the devs it's developers that are going to make that. And anything on the crypto space wasn't a CEO, was it?
What the CEO is going to do in that case is they're going to say, "Oh, you can't do it with those things," and they're going to say, "No, you have to do it this way." And the CEO is going to say, "Not good enough, invent it." And then that's how new standards get created.
It's by the devs. The CEO might tell them to do it, but who made it? Who sat there? Whose brain made it? the dev. The dev came up with the standard that says, well, you want me to do this, I've made a new standard, here it is.
We might be saying the same thing, just from two different angles then.
Yeah, I think we are. It's the devs. The CEO might be bossing them around and demanding what he like. Benny Factor, I know, is so successful because he's just so smart. He understands data. He looks at the important parts of growth. And you can ask any of the Gala staff, that's why Gala grows so well, because he's so good at what he does. But if his dev says we couldn't use what exists now, he will tell them to make it. And then once again, a dev is the one that made it and decided what was how it would be done, just however the boss wanted it.
You can easily relate that back, and you can say, frankly, those that are creating the coins, they're taking a lot of risks too. They're taking them putting all that stuff together. It's not just an investment for them. You know, they're taking on a lot of risk. They're just asking, I wouldn't say asking, they're putting out their coin, and they're hoping for people to take up the risk as well. With a stock, you're asking somebody, you're like, if you buy this, then I can give you some sort of assurances. Not so with crypto. They're putting it out there, and if people like it, then they will use it. So they are taking a huge risk. I see how they're growing, and I see how they take on their risk. I can tell that those people who are putting that stuff together are taking on a lot more risk than me, just throwing a few $100s at the coin.
A lot of them are risking their reputations as well. If they're like credited people, even CEOs who aren't building anything, they're just leading the devs to the direction that they should be going. They risk a reputation. The devs risk a reputation. Anyone who associates with your project takes a risk. That's how I agree there. Basically, everyone's taking a risk, right down to the buyer, to the dev, really. Unless it's a blatant scam project, and you're not really going to know the actual developers were. But in most cases, everyone's trying to do it. Most of these shitcoins do have someone behind it who loves it and wants it to succeed because they built it.
I mean, I am sure there's shitcoins that they only exist to make money, and you know, anything with like pump in their name or whatever. I'm sure they'd like to see it a lot bigger, but there's a lot of angles here. You are taking a huge risk by investing in a coin or just putting money out, and you're taking a huge risk because you don't know what you're doing. They're doing the same thing, so it's almost on all sides, or ideally it's on all sides. I think, and I say ideally because if you're putting out a coin and you know you got a lot of people in on it, now you have an ability to manipulate the price.
I mean, there's a lot of, I can imagine it being quite a pressure, like a lot of pressure on your head to, like, imagine you made Ethereum, like you're that guy, or ADA, or something like that. Once people are really diving behind your project, that more risk, I think, becomes involved, because you know you're dealing with people's money that they probably need and want and don't want to lose. So I can imagine that risk could lead to them making mistakes due to the pressure.
Yeah, so are you investing in people or projects? I would say at first you're investing in people who kind of spearhead things and start things. And I think your own personal risk gets lower once you see a project, you know, catch on fire, as it were, and start spreading everywhere and everybody's picking it up. And of course, Bitcoin is a good example of that. But, you know, there's others.
I mean, we're in that point with, like, as you say, regulations coming, whether we like it or not, whether we like what type of regulations given, it's coming. So you're taking a risk because you don't know which coin might be affected by that regulation as well.
Yeah, I really hope that no projects are completely shut down by whatever regulation we see. I think the hope is that you know, after the regulations are established, projects will be able to work around the regulation, and once they know what's legal and what's, you know, what's covered under the regulation, they can not step. They don't have to feel like they're stepping on eggshells. You know.
Well,
what I mean?
That's what's keeping a lot of projects from starting up or getting further into crypto, to be honest, is because there's no regulation. They don't want to get sued. They don't want,
Right.
In the US, they don't want the SEC to come after them. You know, other countries don't seem to care as much. or other countries are just hot and cold. They're banning crypto one week, they're saying it's okay the next.
Well, I was going to say part of the risk is it's whose country gets to say all of this. I mean, if America goes too strong on regulation, well, they'll just move country. I think you just lose all that tax revenue.
That's why the U.S. is going to be creating its own stable coin, tied to the U.S. dollar. I think they're gearing up to get in front of all this and make money off of it, or at least lure people into kind of a safe haven crypto that they don't have to worry too much about breaking any rules. Which, I mean, institutional investors, that's basically what they're looking for. That's where the big money comes in, is once you have something that's a safe haven and fully understood.
Yeah, so I agree. They're trying to get ahead, and so I think all countries are probably considering it now, except the ones that are just outright banning it. I feel like they're just overwhelmed probably, and they just sort of haven't got the resources to handle it like some countries have.
Yeah, or they have dictators that are just dumb and not listening to their advisors, like Turkey.
Yeah, I mean, I won't single out any countries, but there are some that just I don't think have the resources nor the intellect in the politicians. It's all a bit confusing. They probably see it like, because most people I see on Facebook, like when like a crypto post pops up, I go straight to the comments, and it's just constant. Oh, it's a scam. Oh, everyone who's buying it's stupid. These are the stupid people. But the problem is they take the little tiny problem like the black market. Yes, criminals can use crypto. Congratulations for figuring that out. They also use money. Do you know what I mean? There's no difference. It's just how more anonymous. I think people don't like. Even though it's all public.
They don't like crypto because it's easier to figure out that cryptos are using crypto. Now, fiat, it's harder to figure out the criminals are doing bad things with fiat.
True. I never understood that. I mean, I get that it's a lot of work to track down and kind of unveil what wallets belong to who, but really it's so much easier to track than fiat. And I don't get the argument that criminals are going to use it in the black market and stuff.
Bored teenagers can figure out where crypto goes, or how crypto bad things go on. It takes FBI with search warrants and all sorts of legal maneuverings to figure out where money went, where dollars went.
Yeah, one of the ones I was going to say is I think a lot of the fear comes from. I think we don't always get to see the way the government sees things, because there's a lot of chatter that goes on, and they probably consider things that we don't even think are possible. They sort of think ahead. So like NFTs, for example, I won't go into any names, but there was very recently a mention that someone might use an NFT to sort of drop leaks, because the NFT would be permanently on the blockchain. You could maybe put an incriminating picture on an NFT and slap it on the blockchain. Good luck getting rid of that one. Yeah, you with all this IPFS hosted and stuff
actually, unless it's IPFS, you can. So it's the fact that it's NFT really doesn't mean as much as the store where it's stored.
Yeah, exactly. But if you bang an NFT in a hard wallet that no one's getting the keys to, and you put that NFT, people find it on OpenSea if they know what wallet it's in. What are you going to do? How are you going to force that person? If they burn the keys, what are they? They couldn't even get rid of it if they wanted to.
You'd have to find a way to break the link between the file and the. Remember, an NFT is not its data. However, to that effect, CryptoKitties and that mural.art NFTs, those are actually completely on the blockchain. They are not using. Neither of those are using a file system. So if you could do your NFT right, then you can create a picture on the blockchain that nobody can change.
This is exactly what I'm saying, and you can also attach links to the NFT, which the links lead to the unstoppable domain that's IPFS hosted. What are you going to do? You're going to shut down a whole IPFS system?
No, but what you could do is then you could go after the internet service providers, and you can simply put a ban list that they will not serve up pages to that image. So there are ways.
It's a very It's a lot harder than it is now, though, isn't it? Where
It's
they can just click
it's
their
the
fingers.
it's actually the traditional way of doing it. Internet service providers can certainly ban sites, but I don't know the legalities of it, how hard it is to do. So there may be more to that.
Yeah, and you're talking about how quick other people are just going to upload that image and spread it round.
Yeah, it's
Personally,
gonna be hard.
I'm telling you now, it's going to be a nightmare. Whether they've got the maximum resources, NFTs with leaks on are going to be a major deal because you don't know how long it's been up there for, how many people have seen it, how fast links can spread. You could make 1,000 domains and upload them in. People are going to eventually make IPFS hosting that's quite hard to crack. It'll be in a country that doesn't just listen to the US's demands. And see, I think a lot of people think the US is just going to police the world. They've always had this whole thing about the US just policing everybody. I'm confident that is going away very soon on the digital front. I won't name why on countries,
Well,
but
I think the United States was in a position after World War II to police everything, and they kept that position as long as possible. And then, thanks to recent political events, people are starting to realize this is a really dumb idea, and it's not going to be the United States that stops trying to police. It's going to be other people saying, "Thanks, go away. We don't want your help anymore." And
yeah, exactly. And this is where I think they worry because this takes a lot of power away. World currencies that aren't controlled. As I say, if the US went too hard on regulation, then they'd just move the same way countries do when taxes get stupid. Companies move or corporations move when taxes just get ridiculous. They'll just go. And with the world being in the position it is now, and I think digital currencies are well here to stay. So are NFTs. So all digital type assets are just going to get more and more. They're going to get more and more difficult to get rid of. And IPFS hosting is going to be a massive one because more and more things are going to pop up in places that offer that Switzerland type identity of we don't care who says what to us. We will give you that freedom to express yourself. Now, I worry about types of sites that you just do not want to have the ability to not be taken down. You know what I mean? There's going to be all kinds of like horrible, let's just say, porn sites with images on that you definitely isn't legal in very many countries. That's going to be a major challenge to get rid of. Absolutely so difficult.
Well, actually, again, that gets back to the last mile. The important part is you can't get rid of the data, but you can keep people from seeing it. And
well, no, because look at the dark web. It just exists now, still with all of our resources. Wait till we add an extra layer on that makes it even worse.
Yes, but when you surf the dark web, your internet service provider, well, in the United States anyway, tells the bad guy, tells the the good guys, tells the FBI and the CIA what you're doing and where you're doing it from. So if you're going to surf the dark web, you better find a way to hide your IP address. That's why Tor exists.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. This is my point. So we can already do it now, and we're building things that make it even stronger, regardless of what the FBI knows.
So how many?
They know you're on the dark web.
My point is, how many people in the United States, I'm just using that as an example, actually get on the dark web? Do any people you work with, your parents, your grandparents? I would say most of them. I'd say 90-something% of people don't.
Probably a higher percentage, to be honest, but that's not my point. My point is it's possible now, and it's only going to get easier and more protected, IP related or not. Now, don't get me wrong. There are things your ISPs can block, but they can just change that site so fast. It doesn't matter whether it's just a dodgy drug site, a site to get weapons, bloody high hitmen. They exist now, and they very rarely, I imagine, when they're taken down, they're probably mirrored to the absolute lids. I know on like Silk Road things and stuff like that, they're just so many mirrors. It takes so long for the FBI to get one down, bang, the second one's off. Congratulations, spend another 3 years doing it again. IPFS hosting is going to go down that route of being so hardcore, I think. Mixed with the blockchain technology, it will be very difficult for governments to control it. And I think that's what they worry about.
I don't know. There's a lot of things I saw with the internet and the web in the beginning, which are now kind of regulated out of existence. What
happens if you put an NFT? Let's say you get a politician doing something he shouldn't. You get a picture, you slap it on an NFT, it goes on your Ethereum blockchain. How'd you get rid of it?
Well, it kind of doesn't matter with a politician because people are that's going to be on the news. As soon as it gets on the news, as soon as the journalistic organization gets a hold of it, it's going to be all around the
But
world.
not all the time, because there's so many that don't, because they've got a lot of power on the media. Media's controlled by like 6 people worldwide or something ridiculous. So narratives are so easily locked down, and things like if you show that on the news channel, you're getting sued. That happens all the time in the UK, that they won't show things because they're just threatened to be sued.
Well, that's less
Whereas
so here.
when you can just link that to an NFT and just bang, it's on the Ethereum blockchain,
Well,
there's not much you can do.
That's why anonymous people give things to news organizations. But I get your point.
But not all the time they can show it, because they would be legal consequences, so they don't show it, and you never hear about it. Whereas if they can just slap it on an NFT, which can have videos on, by the way, then what are you going to do when it's on the Ethereum blockchain? You're not getting it off. I don't care what you say. If you can't get hold of them keys, you're not getting it off.
Again, there's a mitigation for that keeps most people away from it. Yes, it's possible for me right now to go down to an inner city, walk through some alleys, and get any drug that I want. But one, I have to know what I'm doing, where I'm going. 2, it's more unsafe for me. 3, I'm very likely to get arrested or killed. So anybody can do all of those illegal things, but most people don't and effectively can't. So that's the argument that I'm making. You don't need to close off 100% of the routes. All you need to do is close off most of them, and it's effectively neutralized.
But this is easier to do. It's just so much a teenager could do. He could get a picture of his teacher doing something he shouldn't. It would normally be classed as like a revenge porn or something like that.
And
That would be highly illegal to do.
And then all you need to do is charge the parents, and then teenagers are going to be doing it less, because then I mean, if teenagers can do really dangerous things right now and get themselves killed, you still charge the parents because they were responsible. If you start charging a lot more parents, their teenagers, they're going to be much more aware of their teenagers, what they're doing. They're going to give them computers or software that's designed to be used by teenagers safely.
But we're talking about things that worry a government, though. Like why a government might be worried about NFTs, and one of them is the fact of if somebody put an NFT on the Ethereum blockchain and knew what they were doing, you are screwed.
Oh, it would be there. You're totally right. They would not be able to take it down, but they could keep it from most people.
Probably not, though, because it'd just be circled around. This is my point. This is why I could see them worrying about NFTs in a way that we don't think. Because maybe they find ways to dilute how many people see it. But it's not like it is now, where they can go through a lot of loopholes to get rid of it. Like, they can take pictures off the internet. Like, I've seen massive operations go forward where they've removed things from the internet as like quite deeply, software that stops it being uploaded, etc., etc.
Okay, here's a perfect example. If there was a nude picture of you, Mal, on the internet, how likely? In fact, it's as an NFT on the blockchain. How likely is it that your grandmother will see it? Providing she's alive.
We're not. That's not what I mean, though. I'm talking about like a high class person. That's the worry, isn't it? Governments don't care about me and you getting exposed naked on some NFT. They care about when someone could be blackmailed. I'm going to stick this video I've got of you, like Matt Hancock in the UK at the moment. He's just been caught having an affair on his wife, and it's absolutely hilarious, all the memes. But what if that was someone who could be blackmailed because of it? They're more inclined to be worried. I know I would be, in the sense of, like, I know the NFT part would be much harder to dilute than, say, just putting it on a website that they could just block. Let's say I'm a really important person who people want to blackmail. I feel like the fact that the NFT could exist on the Ethereum blockchain, that is much more worrying for them as a government. That's how I feel anyway.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think they're going to regulate NFTs, super hard over that reason, but it's a way the government could be looking. Like, could anyone of importance be blackmailed? Because there's a much easier way to expose them and keep it up there for longer.
That's true.
The kind of overlying point here is that this space isn't regulated, and that holds a ton of risk on its own. And with regulation, I think we'll see the risk level, at least in a good number, or hopefully enough people's minds or institutional investors' minds, that we'll see the space become less risky, or at least perceived as less risky?
Yeah, I do think regulation will ease a lot of minds, definitely. Bring more people forward, big investors, most certainly. Plus, you can have the companies, as Faz says, that aren't willing to do anything yet, even though they've got the resource and great devs and all things like that. They just think to themselves, well, we could do this, and then 2 years down the line, some stupid regulation comes out that affects us in a way that we couldn't have predicted. So I do think the regulation will help us get more clarity for sure. It's just how hard to go.
I think early investors hate regulations because they had so much freedom, they made so much money. Personally, I feel I really I don't even think it's a feel. I think it's I really am sure that regulation of the crypto industry would mean, since there's so many more people getting into it, that early investors will benefit thousands of % from it. I mean, any coin that you're getting into now, if everything was all legal 10 years from now, you're going to be rich.
That's the hope, right?
That's where the risk comes in. Which coins are you picking?
Yeah.
And why?
Which 10 are going to be around in 10 years?
Well, I don't think it's going to be which 10 are around. It might be which 10 are around for a specific area that you're interested in. I mean, if you want a gardening coin that's just for gardening, you're not going to find a lot of coins right now. There probably will never be 10, but it's going to be unique enough to where Bitcoin with Flare isn't going to suffice. So, I mean, we don't have just one product in storage. We don't have milk, cheese, and bread, and then that's it. That's more than one. But still, you don't just have those few things, milk, meat, cheese, and bread. You have innumerable different ones, and they go in and out of being more popular and less popular. Some products combine as well. You know, companies that provide these products combine. You can find any type of cheese that you can shake a stick at, and there's any number of companies making any type of cheese. I mean, if you really get into how many companies there are in the world, there's millions upon millions upon millions of different companies and millions upon millions of products. Coins are going to be just like that. This is a whole new asset class. I think people don't realize it's a complete asset class.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that we have no idea yet of the actual potential. There's so much more to come that even hasn't been thought of yet and isn't going to be thought of for another 5 years. In fact, some things are going to appear, which is then going to create a need for something else. So yeah, I agree there. I always just say there'll be 10 left, as in the general sense of currency type coins. There's definitely going to be like game coins that are separate. There'll be meme coins that'll have communities, you know what I mean?
Just like there's Google. Google's a website that's a big website. It's not the main website. It's a main website. There's Google, there's Amazon, there's Microsoft. There's a lot of big boys out there. Okay, those will be your top 10 coins. Those will be the 10 coins that you're speaking of. But then there's going to be a lot of smaller coins that are going to be useful, like your store. I totally predict your grocery store is going to have its own currency. They do that with coupons right now. Come on. They use coupons because they want to be able to help manage their inventory more. You got to put these guys on sale more because we have too many of these. Okay. Well, if you could do that with a coin, a coin gives you advantages over just coupons.
Well, they could offer rewards, you know, spend every $100 you spend in our store, we'll give you $10 of our coin or something like that. Definitely going to be a thing.
And those rewards can be toward what is on sale during the week. So if we have something that we need to get rid of, if we have something on sale for the week, you'll get 10% of everything on sale. That's a great reward. Companies manage that right now, but that's a lot of work. And so if they can push off that work for a coin to do or smart contracts to do, that saves them a lot of time. They're going to do it. It's going to save them a lot of time and money.
Okay. Looks like we're getting into speculation a little bit, but
well, that's when things start winding down. I think
this is kind of what happens in crypto. All like every conversation gets into speculation. It seems like
that's the cool thing about the crypto arena. I remember the same thing going on when the internet was new. Back in 94, 95, all I would do is speculate to my friends, and my friends would speculate back about what the internet could do. Oh my God, do you know what this means? And that's wonderful. That means that you're in a new and growing space that's going to get huge. Everybody's going to get into it. I think the speculation is going to keep going. This speculation isn't bad, but to tie it back to our risk management, it depends on how you put your money behind it.
And the risk as well, I factor in when I do anything I do now on for crypto, I always factor in that there probably aren't really a million people in the space yet actually active and investing. Do you know what I mean? There's something like 700,000 Ethereum wallets have an NFT in. So it's not like the NFT space. I mean, obviously you could go into all the other silly chains and stuff like that and the number would go up a little bit, but I guarantee there's wallets with thousands in that make up for the thousands that don't. So the crypto space is tiny. So at the moment, the risk is, all these pump and dumps that go on because the market's heavily manipulated because there are so few people. But if you had, say, 1 billion people buying crypto, then that's much harder to drop a market, I feel, unless you can get everyone shitting themselves over something.
Yeah, that's the stability that the stock market has over cryptos, just the number of people invested and the amount of money invested.
So exactly. So when you buy now, the risk I think you're taking is, will mass adoption happen? Obviously, that's a yes. But you have to consider how long you're willing to wait for the mass adoption, like with Faz and the internet.
Do you have the money and reserves to, keep a good number in your crypto portfolio without taking it out?
And the patience, as you mentioned before, Si, about the people who buy high, sell low. I know so many of them, and I ask them why, and they just instantly say because it's never coming back. And I just think, why'd you even get in then? Like sometimes it's the risk should be you as a person. You should risk assess yourself. Am I a nervous person? Do I get anxious? Will I just fold at the slightest downturn? I mean, I would tell my friends, listen, it could drop 30%. That's normal. And then, 15% drop comes and they're all absolutely running around. I don't understand it.
Well, I did that myself when I first got into crypto. There's a lot of cryptos I held from a long time ago that I dumped almost immediately. Doge, I actually bought lots of Doge in the past. I'm trying to think, close to 1 million Doge, long time ago. But then I dumped it just as quick because I'm like, what am I, crazy? I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why I was getting into it. I just thought, hey, this is a nice gamble. And slowly, as I learned more, I started holding more. And now I hold a lot more. And a lot of people around me don't. They still don't.
Mm-hmm. And it's like every expert you ask, that's their main advice, is to hold. People just don't take it seriously, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely risk assessing yourself, I would say, is quite an important one that I should have mentioned before. Like, how are you as a person as well? Even though you've got the money to back up what you've done, some people are just nervous. So some people put money in, they can lose. They just really don't want to lose it. Like, no one wants to lose money. Mm-hmm. But how are you going to handle the pressure as it all goes? Because it does just drop sometimes. It can be a simple thing from Elon Musk's tweet. It can be China banning loads of miners or crypto. It could be India. You know what I mean? These big population countries can certainly have a massive effect on the market when they've got all the uncertainty coming in. And so there's so many risk factors to actually consider that are just out of your hands naturally. Mm-hmm. And yourself is an important one. Like, how are you going to react? I mean, most people I know now in the crypto space, the friends have managed to develop, which I absolutely love so much because they've educated me in so many things I just wouldn't have learned. Their mistakes have helped me learn. My mistakes have helped them learn. So I don't think making a mistake's bad. Like, taking a risk and it going wrong isn't always bad, providing you haven't just lost your house or your wife over it. Do you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
But I've learned a lot from my mistakes: selling too early, buying too late, all kinds of things I've done, all the things you shouldn't do in crypto. Mm-hmm. And I've learned so much from it now that I actually do far better because of it, because I took those risks and failed miserably. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to speak to you, Si, as well, as always.
It's a fun little discussion. All right, guys. It's good talking to you. I'm going to sign off.
All right. Yeah. Good talking to you too.
Yes, I, as always, take care.